Video game design, chapter 7, online game development. Really going to touch on the history of the web, HTML, and its design. Right now, the web is mostly built off of HTML5. Before we had HTML4, and while that was designed for web pages as well, and web-based games and animation, third-party tools such as Flash, for example, proved to be more effective and used for majority of web-based game development. And what HTML5, I should say, was released afterwards. And that's where we're going to dive in here and its differences. First, the history of the World Wide Web. Really, the idea of the web came off the idea of researchers working together on a topic that could link their documents together over a network. And that's kind of how the idea of the web came from. The groundwork for the web was when hypertext was created, and that is linking text from one document to another on the same computer. After hypertext, what's called DNS, or Distributed Name Service, came, and this was created to map long numbers that specified network addresses. So you see this long number on the left, that comes out to be about.com. So that came, and this was really the second piece in the evolution of the web. Next, after DNS, was HTTP, or Hypertext Transfer Protocol. This was developed for the purpose of retrieving other documents via the linked text in an original document. And this came after DNS. What followed, and what was the language for this HTTP, was HTML, or what's the longer is Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is a markup language, and what markup language is instructions that tell the web browser where to place images, what font to use for text, how to handle links in email, etc. HTML is the code behind what you see on a website, and that's what's used. And right now we currently use HTML5. HTML5's core principles, first one being backwards compatibility, where it's compatible with earlier models, and also that specifications and implementations must match one another. And this was a quote from your textbook, where HTML5 is not finished, will never be finished. It's always evolving, always changing, and it changes as the desires of consumers change, and it wants to meet desires of consumers. So it's really never just finished. It's always evolving. Just latest language for the web. Its growth and how it came to be about. Early adopters were Safari, YouTube, and Firefox. Steve Jobs, he made it clear that Flash would not be allowed to function on Apple products. And because Apple had, Jobs really had such a strong resistance to Flash, a lot of developer interest in HTML5 grew. It grew because with Apple's products being the premier platform for media and for gaming media, or for games I should say, in general, since Apple's hardware was the premier. So why make something that it's not going to work on an Apple product? It wouldn't make sense for developers. You can have Flash-based software on an iOS system, which is Apple's operating system, only that is jailbroken, which that means the device and operating system, they're hacked to allow complete software access. HTML5 then is becoming the new standards for app development, or becoming the new standard. In 2011, 4 years ago, 34% of the top 100 websites use HTML5. And at that time, over 1 billion smartphones had HTML5 capability. So imagine what it is now. The design of HTML5, and we've noted it's developed for the web, and I noted that before. It means it's going to run with a web browser. So even if a HTML5 game is played on a smartphone, it needs to be developed within the structure of that device's browser. Okay. Speed can be an issue with HTML5. It is, you want to design for efficiency. You want to optimize graphics. You want to reduce and reuse and recycle. You want to use elements more than once, and also trim your audio. So be as efficient that you can. I mean, if you look at this picture on the right, yes, one's black and the purple one has a nice fade into it, but that purple takes a lot of space as compared to just a black screen, where imagine we were just putting text on this, the black screen, probably could work. Rather save the space for gameplay. Okay, so a little bit on HTML5 design, some of its differences. Remember, no, HTML5 is designed for the web. Okay, it's designed for a mouse and a keyboard first. It's designed for clicks. It's used for the web. What you first want to do is design a game for the web, for clicks, and then adjust it for touchscreen. Okay, so design your game with a mouse, with a keyboard, and then if you want to make that for a touchscreen, then adjust. Okay, but go with what's called the web's best practices. Note visual and audio cues. Okay, where with HTML5, if I roll over with my mouse, I can have a visual. I can have, say, an icon expand. I can have an audio occur, where on touchscreen I can't have that. Okay, it's either just a touch and then probably going on to the next screen. Keyboard controls. HTML5 has the keyboard. Okay, virtual keyboards on smartphones or tablets will take away from design. Okay, and they don't work as well. Now, with HTML5, because it's designed for the web, the specials, that your GPS settings, accelerometer, those are not available. So you want to keep using audio and visual feedback to just keep making it engaging. You can't turn your desktop. So that's the one thing that it lacks. But if you use enough audio and visual feedback, you can keep your game engaging. Procedural components. Web browsers are optimized for pretty pictures, not really for running math on the fly. And that helps with HTML5, talking about pretty pictures. Procedural components are generally good elements to include for consoles where memory is limited. All right, procedural components are bits of visuals that are generated on the fly by the program rather than taking up memory as sprites. We've been seeing that while you're making your IGD. Also, we have an example of procedural component is a palette animation, and that is animating or changing the color of a sprite or object by tinting it in the object's attributes. Both of these, well, just procedural components, can cause lag. All right, it's what we rather have, since HTML5 is used for the web. We rather have a longer load than having game lag. Or you still want to optimize graphics, but will take an extra second or two on the load than having your game lag, because you're using procedural components and they're trying to generate as the game's moving, and then thus slowing the game down. As noted, it will cause lag on an HTML5 game, and then lag during a game causes this rage quit, where people quit in frustration. A lot of online players, when they play and there's a lot of lag in the game, a lot of gamers tend to quit. They get frustrated because it's not moving as smoothly as when you're offline. And as I noted, better to have lag, I should say, in loading the game than during it. This is a tutorial that we are going to complete in class. Now, moving into when you make your game, distribution and discovery. This was mentioned a little bit in chapter 6. We did have a couple of slides on it. Remember, your game, it's very easy to get lost. You want to think to yourself, well, how will players get to your game? Distribution, discoverability. How will your players find out about it? Okay, even a great game can get lost, and there's so many apps available. It can get lost, and this is a really cool picture here. It can get lost with all these different apps. So you really want to make sure you have great distribution and great discovery. To help with discovery, you can have tags, and tags, they're similar to what you see on YouTube videos, those words at the bottom where if you search that word, it will bring up that video. Tags are keywords that are exposed to search engines that help them to find and rank your game in their search results. You can practice good tag and having good tags, and ideas to include the title, the genre, the setting, platform, descriptors, which is descriptive words of your game, and qualifiers. You want to choose tags that describe your game. So when you have, say, if you put a game trailer up of your game, you want to have tags that describe what your game is about. Probably want to have the title. You probably want to have the genre as an example. That will help find your game on the web and on the internet. After being published, you hope to go viral, okay? Where it's widely popular via word of mouth. We've seen this with Trivia Crack and Flappy Bird. Ways to gain exposure: contact bloggers, try to get on review sites, create a trailer for your game, create a social media account for your game as well. Go on Facebook, go on Twitter, create accounts to kind of push your game. A little more on the HTML5 design limitations. You want to keep them in mind when designing HTML5. With audio, keep it simple. You really want no more than 3 to 5 sound effects going on at once, especially if you want to have music. You don't want to have both music and sound effects going to take too much space. File sizes, try to keep them small as possible. And download speeds. Make sure your game can be played at every type of internet connection. Not everyone has a really fast internet connection. So while we said you'd rather have a longer load, you also want to manage those load times. Do you want to include a mini game so it takes some mind away from loading, or do you want to include ads there as well? Screen size, talking about HTML5 design limitations. Ensure games can be played on every single device. And then acquisitions, and we noted this before, how will players find it? Okay, HTML5, it does not have a collection of their games like kind of app stores for mobile gaming, so how will they find it? And when you find your players, engage them, try to establish a relationship over the course of several projects with them. That's really good with social media. And then lastly, deployment and evolution. On the plus side with HTML5, HTML5 games will work on any major browser. There are no special add-ons. You don't have to include any, say, extensions, say with Chrome. They will work, and it's now the language of the web. All right, right now everything you see on the web is built off of HTML5. So a little into HTML5 design, talking about tags, going viral, and I'll see you all in class.